We are now in our 41st year as an organization. I'm Peter Lilienthal, and they saw so fit to name me the president, so that's who I am. And I couldn't be happier to be with such a terrific organization and find that I'm so lucky, but there are so many people in this room who have do so much for us that it's just a pleasure to be where I am. So now that we're in our 41st year, which means that last year was our 40th year and was a wonderful year for us. But just to briefly cap last year, on October 22nd, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. And we honored two wonderful couples, Alyssa and David Kaplan, and Sandy and Fred Golliff. And boy, are we lucky. But I'm lucky too, because I've gotten to know them both, spent time with them, and it's so fortunate to have them as good friends. On December 3rd, we hosted our 6th annual Man Lecture that was headed up by Ava Willer. Alan Cooperman of the Pew Research Center in Washington spoke on the subject of can Jews be the most loved and hated religious group in America. We were at Agudath, and the chapel was filled. And after about 2 hours, there were some people who just couldn't stay longer, so I had to sort of interrupt it a little bit, and the crowd stayed till about 4 o'clock. So he had a lot to say about not only here in America, but around the world. And it was fascinating. Almost felt like, you know what, we should have him come back again, talk a little more about this stuff that was so sensitive to us. So the legacy of our second president, Lester Sharlock, is being celebrated under the leadership of Gail G. Trell, with the creation of a full-length movie from Lester's original slide presentation called Remembering the Family Store. Now, Gail has done a phenomenal job with that. So much so, and I asked her today, so how many venues has this been in? Well, she couldn't tell me exactly, but I know it's going to be many more. And the number of people that were, in fact, in that movie that were friends of the original group is heartwarming. And so it's been all around, and Gail is sort of contemplating where next. The next thing that happened last year is a program called L'Ador Vador, from generation to generation. Now, it's hard to kvel, but I'm kveling. And I think we as an organization should kvel as to what L'Ador Vador is about. We all know from generation to generation. And what's happened through this program is that 240 kids have interviewed their grandparents. And it's all on videotape. And the gifted group is headed up by Dr. Elizabeth Kaplan, Dr. Leah Tillman, Rhonda Ginsburg, Leslie Hyacinth, and Fran Resnick. So what they do is they go to the schools, and these kids, in fact, are taught something about our organization and are given a whole thing about what the archives are about, but then they learn about what their grandparents are about and what their family is about. And if you want to bring tears to your eyes, you listen to these kids, and it happens to me all the time. Then you see over here an exhibit called It Happened Here. And It Happened Here is a phenomenal exhibit. It reaches into our archives and talks about people who you would know from Stamford and this area and what they have done. I would suggest you go over there and take a look, because you'd be amazed at who's there. In addition, during this entire process last year, about 50 people visited the archives. And under the direction of Leslie Hyacinth, I can tell you that of the 50 people, there were hardly any that were members. Can you imagine? They come to our archives, which really are theirs too, because it's of this town, and realize what they could see and experience. So they're seeing stuff and experiencing stuff that is really, really quite amazing. The part of the archives, by the way, that is really thrilling is that we call these boxes gray boxes. You know why? They're gray. And in those gray boxes is a story about a particular area. I won't mention the place that I'm going to discuss right now because it was interesting what, in fact, it's had. There was a letter from the president of a congregation that wrote this long letter that talked about membership. So how many of you would here that belong to various organizations that are concerned about members? He was, and the letter was 100 years old. So how about that? Is anything new? Not really. 100 years ago is not yesterday. What I'd like you all to do is to go to our website, which is the home of what we do, and you'll find phenomenal stuff about what you are about, because it's all about you. It's all stuff that's gone on here in Stamford. So just a brief summary of the financials that we have, which is my responsibility to give to you. Are we still having a problem with them? Okay, can you hear me now? It's the financial area. That's why it's quiet. So is the financial area. And Walter Morgenthaler, who is our financial VP, executive VP, he is with his son in Charleston. So he could not be here today, but has in fact sent his financial report. And those of you who are on our board will find it in your inbox on the board. But last year was a wonderful year for us financially. Our net income went up $38,000, which for an organization like ours is huge. And it really is a tribute to all of you who've been at our events, and very happy to have had you there, and your contributions very much needed. However, what we're going to be doing is taking a peek in the future. We are going to restart our strategic planning process, and we're going to all together work together to see where we want to be the next 40 years. And but first of all, let's get by this first one. And where does that take us? So I want to thank you all very much for coming. And before I do my next introduction, I want to bring up someone very special who I've gotten to know, is the director of the Hartford Jewish Historical Society, Elizabeth Rose. We met, talked, and I learned a lot. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Peter. Can you hear me okay? Thanks so much for inviting me to join you at this event today. And I bring you greetings from the Jewish Historical Society of Greater Hartford. We're a few years older than you, celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. It was actually delayed a couple of years by the pandemic, so we're up to 53 this year, I think. But we appreciate the opportunity to share ideas about what each of our organizations is doing and the common challenges and ideas that we share. And I had the opportunity to meet Alyssa Kaplan years ago when I was working at the Fairfield Museum and working on the Jewish history of the Fairfield County. So it's wonderful to see what you all are doing. I love to hear about this Lador Vador program. This seems like a very impressive a thing that you've gotten off the ground, and the family store film is something that's very interesting to me as well. And I've consulted with your archivist a number of times about how they're managing the archives, and I'd also like to say that your organization here is part of a bigger world of within the state. There's our organization in Hartford. There's Jewish Historical Society of Greater New Haven, with which I'm also in touch, and we're working on getting together to share ideas. There's also something called the New England Jewish History Collaborative, which has representatives from each of the 6 New England states. And we have done some programs online, and we're getting together periodically to plan things that we could do together. We've put together a website that has information about research resources on Jewish history in each of the New England states. So we're all part of that as well. And from our end in Hartford right now, we've done an exhibit on Jewish women in Connecticut, highlighting 12 Jewish women. I think one of whom is over here in this exhibit as well. Many Rabinowitz or rabbins. Matilda, sorry. And right now we're bringing back something we've done in the past, which is the Greater Hartford Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. So we're partnering with the Jewish Community Center and inducting a new class of people who have achieved something in the world of sports, and we'll be celebrating that in the fall. So those are a few of the things that we're up to right now. Also, we just did an exhibit last year on connections between Hartford and Israel over 125 years. So that's another idea for you to think about as well. Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you very much. So with that, I'd like very much to introduce Dr. Elizabeth Kaplan, dear friend of all of us. So for anybody that meets Dr. Kaplan, they all know what a wonderful lady she is and what she does. And she is chair of our nominating committee. And thank you very much, my dear.
So thanks so much, Peter. Your check's in the mail. So I'm Elisa, and it's good to see everybody here today on such a beautiful Sunday afternoon. And let's see where I'd just like to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day, Erin Gabrag. Yes, and guess what? Irish immigrants made it to America and to Stamford before the Ashkenazi Jews, but after the German Jews. But anyway, and the Irish immigrants, the Catholic Irish immigrants were very, very helpful to the Eastern European immigrants here who were coming over and made for good relationships and even better beer. So, but St. Patrick's Day is very much part of our history too, because I know when you live in a certain place like Stamford or Bridgeport or Fairfield or wherever you live, or Omaha, but you say, well, I know there's Jews here, but are there Jews outside of where I live? Of course there are. There's Jews all over the world, and including Irish Jews. So there's a fraternal organization of Irish-born Jews who came from Lithuania, and they just kind of moved next door to Ireland before they came here. And in the 1960s, they formed an organization, and they have banquets complete with green matzah. So green matzah, why not? Of course, you could get a green bagel today, which is really, really nice. And they are called the Loyal League of Yiddish Sons of Aaron. So look them up. And I'd like to give a shout out to famous Irish Jews, the Herzog family, and Isaac Herzog, who was president of Israel from 1983 to 1993. And his father was born in Belfast, not in Israel, but they moved there, of course. And his grandfather was the first chief rabbi of Ireland from 1922 to 1936. Of course, he went on to be the chief rabbi of Israel in 1948. So the Herzogs are really Herzogs. Okay, so there we have Irish Jews. All right. So on to nominations, which is what I really was supposed to be talking about, but it's me. Okay. So I would first like to tell you about the process. Peter asked me to set up a nominations committee, and I'd very much like to thank my committee. We had some dynamic, quick meetings, which was nice because it was easy, and we found wonderful people. So I'd like to thank Larry Ginsberg, Rhonda Ginsberg, Ann Peskin, Marcy Schoenfeld, Leah Tillman, and Gail G. Trell. Big hand for the committee. Okay. Now, I'd like to recognize there are a few presidents of the organization. Peter is our current president, but we also have Fred Golliv here and Gail G. Trell, who were presidents of our organizations and had wonderful terms and brought us to a new stage when they were in office. Big hand for our presidents. Now, it's my honor to present and privilege to present the slate of officers to you. And I'd like to, here's the slate as decided by the nominating committee. Larry Ginsberg to be executive vice president, and then members of the board of directors, Sandy Golliv, Abram Heisler, Jake Meyer, Dr. Ann Peskin, Goldie Rosen, Marcy Schoenfeld, Alan Sosnowitz, Dr. Leah Tillman, Gail G. Trell, and Ari Vogel. So, Peter?
I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the slate that's been recommended by the nominating committee.
I so move.
Everyone in favor? And we need a second, I'm sorry. A second? Okay, thank you. And all those in favor? Okay, seems like it's a unanimous kind of a vote. And congratulations to the new and upcoming board.
Good. All right. So, before we actually install our new board, I'd like to recognize the people who are currently on our board who will still be in office, because we know where you are. We can find you. Okay. So let me get my list out. So people who will currently be serving and who will be helping our new board are Peter Lilienthal, our president, Rhonda Ginsberg, our secretary. She's over there quickly taking notes. I'm on that board. Walter Morgenthaler, our treasurer. Jeff Bendrimer, who is here in the back sitting next to his parents. There's a picture of his parents in back of him. Just kidding. See that picture of the couple? Anyway, it was a joke. All right, Seema Broza, Leslie Hyacin up front, who has been working hard this morning with Lador Vador, Jill Kaplan, Liz Krebs, Julie Margulis, and Debbie Zuckerman. A hand for our current board members. And now, I'd like it, let's see, we are going to retire the officers on the board who are leaving our board. But like I said, we know where you are. So, let's see. A very special thanks. And as I call your name, please rise. Wendy, if you're here, Wendy Bennett, Jeff Kahn, Fred Golliv. There you go, Fred. It's okay. Yeah, there. Oh, yay. And Nancy Kite, Kim Krieger, Vivian Orbach-Smith, Ava Weller, and Barbara White. Very big hand, and especially a big hand for Fred. So, I will say to our retiring officers and directors, you have served the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County well. Please accept our thanks and our congratulations. However, even if you're not sitting in this room, your job is not complete. You'll be in a position to advise and counsel the newly elected board. Your help and guidance is still needed. Your experience and leadership are greatly valued. You are now retired. Big hand. This is it. Okay. And now let's welcome our new board members. As I call your name, I ask you to come forward and just stand over in front of the podium. Okay. Larry Ginsberg, Executive Vice President. Big hand for each one. Sandy Golov. Yay. Abram Heisler, who cannot be with us here today. Jake Meyer, who is cloning himself because he's also involved with a huge Passover rollout today. Why are we thinking about Passover already? Okay. Dr. Ann Peskin. Someone help Ann up over here. And Goldie Rosen. Maybe you'll come up with Ann. Yay, big hand for Goldie. And if you want to see Goldie other times, she's right in our archives many times during the week. Marcy Schoenfeld, our caterer, and many other things. Be sure to stay tuned for the book talks that she's running tomorrow night. Alan Sosnowitz, hard to miss in his red shirt. Big hand for Alan. Dr. Leah Tillman, Gail G. Trell. Yay, Gail. And Ari Vogel. Big hand for Ari. Okay, before you sit down, words of wisdom. It's my privilege to welcome you to the board of the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County. More? Okay. I congratulate you on your election and know you will always strive to do your very best to complete your responsibilities. The success of the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County is not based on you alone, thank God, but on all your work together as a community. Remember, we tell the story of the lived human experience through Jewish eyes. You are duly installed. Yay.
So basically for tomorrow night at 7:00, Jonathan Fass is going to be giving a book talk on who are we as Jews. You may be interested in listening to me. He's a phenomenal speaker. In fact, I take a course with him every Friday with some of others here called Taste of Torah. He's an excellent teacher, and I think you'll enjoy it. And if you haven't signed up yet, go to our announcements, and you need to register. And as a result, you will be getting the link to the talk. And thank you all for coming, and to be continued here. Thank you very much.